Hey everyone, Coach Mel here, coming at you with a little bit of a new setup. We upgraded our equipment. We've got a new camera, got some new mics, and I have a special guest today. We're going to talk about my sweet friend and business partner here in a minute. So you heard my intro, and I don't know if it bores people to hear all the hats that I wear, but I really want to tell you the reason that I talk about everything that I do is so that you know when you hire me as your coach, I'm not going to farm you out to a nutritionist or a dietitian. I'm not going to have you get a counselor for your life coaching. And we haven't even announced it yet, but our MelFit 365 program is launching soon. I am also offering a year-long wealth and life coaching program, which I'm super excited about. So I am, as my girlfriend would like to say, the whole enchilada. I can do everything for you, and I can help you in the field of health, fitness, wellness, life, and wealth, which is pretty awesome for me. I think I would struggle a little bit if I was working with you and you were working with someone else. It's nice that I know everything. So we are here today with Britni. And if you're following us on social media, Britni is the owner and founder of Revv Health, which is, in my opinion, a revolutionary way to approach hormone therapy. And we're so excited. I'm using her services. My digital media assistant, Josh, and my husband, we're all using Britni, and we're going to do some shorts on what it is that Britni does. We're going to have her back and what the difference is between what Britni does and what you're used to, what your primary care provider is, the information that they're giving you. We're going to touch a little bit on this at the end, but I want to tell you how we came about sitting here today for this podcast. Britni and I were having a phone conversation about life and, spouses and different things. And she said to me one powerful word, which was surrender. Like, Mel, what if you just surrendered? Which honestly, as a high energy top performer, that gives me anxiety. So I'm super excited to hear Britni's story about how she got to the point where surrender was her word of the year. And I'm super excited to have her teach me and show me how I can surrender and improve my life. And hopefully you guys are going to get something out of this as well. So I'm going to give you the floor. Britni, thanks for being here today.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And I feel honored to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
So yes, we were talking about relationships and some of the struggles. And I think over the past 20 years, I've gone through multiple divorces and stuff, which for me was something that I always was ashamed of and embarrassed to even admit. To be honest with you, I've had 3 divorces, and I've always said 2. Because my first one was at 18 and it was like 4 months long. So it was something that not only was I embarrassed of and ashamed of, but didn't even want to claim. It just felt like a huge sense of failure, not just 1, not just 2, but 3. And over the past few years of going through my last divorce, it's been 4 years now, I felt like there was just constant weight on my shoulders of just my past. And it would bring up this anxiety and this stress in my current relationships and even in my relationships with my children that just felt like I was so stuck and basically living out of fear constantly. And so back in October, I felt like the weight of the world was on my shoulders. I was even running again from my relationship, which there was no reason for me to run anymore. But I was feeling like, what if this isn't right? what if there's more out there? What if there's somebody better? What if this isn't my person? I've already failed multiple times. So, on top of financial stuff and having the pressure of so many different businesses and being what feels like this single mom that's running this multiple households and multiple businesses, I found myself not sleeping at night. We were building up Rev. I have multiple houses on the market. I have 4 children, 3 teenagers. And my time that I would wake up every night grew larger and larger. Started to where I'd wake up at 2 in the morning and then I couldn't sleep for 2 hours. And I'm going crazy. I was getting anxious. And I found that that was the time that I just started praying. And it's like, okay, maybe God wants me to sit here and spend this time with him. So I did. I started diving into just praying over and over and over just every night. And it became longer and longer from 2 in the morning to 4 in the morning, from 1 in the morning to 5 in the morning, from midnight. And I could not turn my brain off. And there was this time where I was praying and I felt like God was telling me, like, let go, just surrender. That was the word that came to mind. Surrender to me. Like, you surrender to me and give up all of this anxiety and fear and stress and let go of control, and I will guide you. And I felt like the message kept saying, like, what's the worst thing that can happen? What is the worst thing that can happen? Like, what? You fail? Okay. You just get up and keep going. And that was where I had met with one of the ladies that was helping us with our media at the time the next day. And I was a wreck. I was heartbroken because I felt like nothing was going the way that I anticipated. And she sat down with me and she said, "Can I pray with you?" And I wasn't used to that, especially with business. And so I was like, "Yeah, absolutely. Let's pray." She starts praying and immediately she says to me, "I feel like God wants me to tell you to surrender."
Whoa.
I know. I was like, what? Like, it makes me want to cry right now thinking, like,
We might have to grab the tissue.
yeah. It's like, a lot of times being raised in a Christian home, I questioned my faith so much. I didn't want to feel like people were pushing something or forcing something just because that was their way. And I feel like I got lost so many times along the way of just trying to control things and figure things out myself. And this to me, like, I don't know how you could say, like, God wasn't speaking to me without this woman who all of a sudden is asking to pray and giving me the same exact message, word for word, what I had just felt God was saying the night before.
And that takes some guts on her part, because in this day and age, in 2024, I mean, that takes some guts to ask someone.
Absolutely.
I am not hesitant. You know who you are. So yeah, for sure. I get that. But I feel like you know
Yeah.
who the people are.
Absolutely.
That, like, for some reason she had a sense about you that it was okay to ask you that.
Yeah, she did.
Otherwise, I mean, I think that people do know their boundaries.
Yeah, but I also think that there's something beautiful within that's her. And she really didn't care. She's like gonna ask me, and if of course if I said no, she wasn't going to, but that's the beauty. Like, she's an amazing woman of God. But from that moment on, I remember she even questioned me about my relationship that I'm in, Here we are, we've been together at that point like 2.5 years, and marriage was coming up a lot, and it was something that really, really scares me. It still scares me. It's a daily thing that I have to, like, let go of and not try to control, or that just internal struggle of feeling like I could fail again, or this human could fail me again. But from that day forward, I went home and I was just like, man, like, I even had to sit him down and be like, I am done fighting this. I'm done fighting, like, the control financially, emotionally. After my last relationship, I had gotten back together with my ex-husband, and I shut all emotions off after that. Like, I was like, okay, I can't feel. I'm not going to show emotions. If you asked all of my friends and that are really, really close to me, like, I'm not an emotional person. I don't show a lot of emotions. If you ask my ex-husband, I'm an emotional wreck. So that was what I was being fed all the time, is being told that I was too much, and then feeling like I wasn't enough. And so you build up these protective mechanisms to where there's all these walls, and you're just trying to survive and cope, and also be something that you think somebody else said you're not. And that was the day, just this last October, that I felt like those walls started to really come down. And I was able to just step out truly into the light of being like, this is me. Like, and I'm going to love myself. I'm going to forgive myself. Because without that, I can't move forward with a spouse, with a partner, and truly love them and be here on an unconditional way if I'm not even loving myself in that manner as well. So it's all new to me, and it's
I get that.
every day is a struggle still. I have to like wake up and surrender.
The one thing I was thinking earlier, I heard this in one of my it's funny when you get into the personal development space, it's just so addicting.
Yeah.
It's like something that I just can't believe that I lived my life without. It's like being seen for the first time and being around people that like get you. We have so much in common, but one girl said, if you sweep things under the rug, you'll trip over them later.
Yeah.
So I truly believe that. And we have so much in common. The reason when you said the word surrender to me, it gave still my heart just kind of goes like, you want to talk about control freak.
Yep.
And just to kind of, throw this in there, I don't know if this relates to you, but the reason that it gives me anxiety is because I have had to survive.
Yeah.
I've been homeless since I was 14. I've never borrowed any money from anybody. And I guess maybe surrendering, like, I feel like maybe is everything I worked for going to be, taken away from me, or will we not get to where I want to go because I've, and I can't correlate the word to step back or lower my standards or slow my pace. I've got to look at it as surrendering is actually growing.
Mm-hmm.
Surrendering is really holding me back. So
Absolutely.
what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I really tried. I overthink and I overanalyze everything. So I really started to try and like peel back those layers of like, why do I have a hard time surrendering? And I go back to relationships. And in my past relationship, he was the breadwinner. So in my mind, I did surrender. I gave up a lot of things, and he had control of so much at the end of the day. And he basically, when it came down to our divorce, which was not good, he wanted to tell me my worth, basically. And he made me feel like I would never be anything without him. And so you're kind of torn because you can go two different directions. You could feed into all that he's saying, and I could believe that I'm nothing without him. I could believe that he's the one that determines what I'm worth and where my future grows from here. Or I can take that and I can use it as fire and I can run with it and I can prove him wrong. And I think that when I'm thinking of the word surrender, it does. It's like this internal battle that you're dealing with. I'm like, okay, if I surrender, am I giving up that fight? Am I giving up my control or also like my destination? Because right now I have control over it. And as long as I have control over it, nobody can take that away from me. Nobody can tell me I'm less than. Nobody can tell me where I'm going, what to do, where I can go to on vacation to, like what I can buy. It's just like all these things that you don't think of when you think of the word surrender. It's a lot deeper. And I think that with our own personal relationships that we go through, it's how we relate to the word. And I know you have gone through your own stuff that I can definitely relate to. I started working at a really young age, babysitting, 2 jobs, got pregnant really young. I had to survive.
Yeah.
Like nobody was going to take care of me and my child. Her dad was the one that I was married to for a few months. He was off partying. He went off to the Navy. Like there was no support. And then I got myself into the next relationship that was unhealthy, and it is survival. And also on top of it, you have that stuff. This is where it's implanted, is that you're not enough or nobody's going to want you or that you have too much baggage. It started at a really young age.
I've had a couple of men tell me that I couldn't make it on my own.
Yeah.
One guy that I was dating for 5 years, this is what really made my mom flip her lid. Said I was a gold digger, and my mom let him know that I paid for everything that I couldn't take with me. Gas in the boat, food, clothes for him, clothes for his son. Was never allowed to buy anything for the home. What does that tell you?
Yeah.
I think that he always knew that it was short term. And let's just face it, the cost of living, add that all up.
Yeah.
So he made me feel, he went around town saying I was a gold digger, and my mom just really lost it. But yeah, he told me that, basically, I wouldn't make it. And, you know, Matt Laughlin says you can only go as high as you've once been low. And I know you've had a lot of lows. And so have I. And that was one of my lows. It's like, I left this relationship with, this guy brainwashed me. I was not to have connection with friends and family. And he was just super controlling. And I mean, I left with nothing. And my mom, I was renting a room from her girlfriend in her basement. And what little belongings that I had, my girlfriend's cat pissed on all my stuff. Like
Oh,
it
wow.
couldn't get any worse. And I remember my mom saying, like, you're better than this. And I said to her, you know what? I know I'm better than this, and I'm going to get out of here. And I did say, because I was living on the water, and I think I was probably 19 to 24 or something like that, 25. And I remember saying, I'm going to get back on the water on my own,
Yeah.
my own things. And here I am.
Yeah. Look
But
at
yeah,
you.
it's really painful when someone tells you your self-worth.
Absolutely.
And if you hear it long enough, you start to wonder. You start to lose grip with reality. It's like, but I wanted to ask you, after your last divorce, you said you were, a little bit unemotional. How long did it take you to even think about another relationship?
No, I actually jumped into
You
relationships
did?
and wasn't healthy and I hadn't healed.
Do you feel like it was a little bit of a rebounder situation, or?
I think it was a coping mechanism.
Yeah.
And I think it was also like an internal of like feeling like somebody wants me because you're being told. I mean, if I read you the text messages that I did keep, because it actually is a really good reminder of like where I definitely never would want to go back, because there is that internal struggle too of like where your comfort zone is and your security and going back to that. And especially when it comes to like having kids and having a home and having, the financial freedom and stuff like that, there's security in that. But when it comes down to the verbal abuse and the mental abuse and stuff, like we don't talk about that enough. And we don't talk about what it truly does to us as women. And I think that that's one thing, even like with my daughters, I constantly am hearing them and their girlfriends talk. And there's something out there right now that is just, it's awful. Like you hear these girls, they just want successful men. That's all you hear about. Some good looks, a little bit, that doesn't even matter anymore, but they want money. They want to be taken care of. And that's the part where I think that like there's been generations of this taught to. And I look at it and it breaks my heart because I've been there. I've been in the struggle of being the young mom that's surviving. I've been in the situation that's unhealthy and toxic, but he has money and he's taking care of things and getting out of that and what that looks like. And just like you said, the whole stigma about being a gold digger and people thinking that you're with somebody because they have money. I wasn't with my ex-husband because he had money. It was a bonus, and there were things that came from that, but there was so many negative things that came from that. The toxicity of just alcoholism. He was an alcoholic, and just survival day to day. Like I could have cared less about the money. In fact, now I'm in a situation that's completely opposite, and I'm fulfilled in so many areas that I wasn't before. But yet, I hear all these young girls that are like, I just want a guy to take care of me. I just want to be a stay-at-home mom. And there's a beauty behind that. But I think that nowadays we get lost in all of that. And the word surrender, again, doesn't have to be a negative thing. it can be positive. And if you're working together as a team and you're truly partners and you have each other's best interest in mind and you're even building something together, there's much more beauty behind that
Yeah.
than finding somebody with money.
Yeah.
Or
The curse to, in my opinion, the curse to people who are looking for somebody who already has money is there's no greater feeling in the world as a woman, and I speak for myself and probably a lot of other women, than not than being financially secure. I don't need a man to support me. I need a man for other things,
absolutely.
love and safety and connection and all that. So it's a little bit scary for me to hear that, because if these girls are getting into relationships that go bad, it's hard to get out as a woman when you don't have your own money.
Absolutely.
You can stay stuck in a physical and, verbally abusive relationship because you can't
'Cause you have
get
nothing.
out. And I really, yeah, for me, I didn't feel good about it because the person that I moved in, he had built the house. He,
Yeah.
all that. So I was reluctant from day one. I did not want to move in with him.
Same
And
way.
once I got there, I feel like I always felt that way because I wasn't able to buy furniture and kind of like make it mine. So yeah, it's really interesting. So back to October, and it's kind of funny if you guys have ever had a quantum leap in your life, you'll never forget the month, you'll never
Yeah.
forget the year, you'll never forget who you were when that happened. So, can you kind of you left off at the lady praying for you,
Yeah.
and did you believe in God before?
I believe I've grown up believing in God, and going to church, but I struggled, and I struggled because the hypocrisy behind church and just feeling like all the judgment and criticism and stuff. And so I really kind of dove more into like spirituality and thinking that this is just my relationship with God. But at the same time, it was more when it's convenient, you know? And so I think that once I found myself on my knees, literally praying for hours and getting these messages, and then having other people praying for me and hearing those same messages. And it happened multiple times and with more than just one person. So she was just the first one. And it was like a week long. I felt like I went home from that and I sat him down and I was just like, you will not believe what just happened. And I told him, and I felt a softening of my heart almost immediately. It was just like an overwhelming sense of love. And it was like love for myself, love for everybody else around. I felt like even when it came to past situations and people that I've been hurt by, I felt all of a sudden that like I felt love for them. I felt sorry for them. I actually saw myself in them, like areas that I had had pain. So that was a moment for me which I feel like transformed who I am spiritually, but also emotionally, and kind of just did like a 180 to where, yes, I'm still the same person. I still have the same struggles. I still have a hard time and want to control everything around me. But it's a daily reminder just to surrender, give everything to God. And there's always tomorrow. And we talked about like our favorite quotes and stuff. And, the one quote, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, by the German philosopher. That always seemed so like short and sweet, right? What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. But that is something that I constantly am telling myself, telling my daughters, and especially my daughter in college, which has been a struggle just with her and her out on our own and figuring out who she is. And I have to remind myself, like, it's not going to kill her. It's just going to make her stronger. And right now, we're working through some hard things, and I've been there too. And if I could go back to that version of me right now, I'd have so much that I could help them with.
Yeah.
And I'm using that now with my kids. So
And I think I say this with health and fitness, the people who fall on their face the most
Yeah.
and ask for help and get up are the most resilient. So as mothers, do we protect them like little ballerinas, or do we actually let them, let them fall?
I've had to.
And then they go through the struggles. So something you said earlier too, Brittany, you know, your whole analogy, this is honestly probably why we've been connected to each other. And I'm going to be 50 this year. Brittany, you're 39.
Yep.
So there's a little bit of age difference between us. And I'm not going to speak for you, but I'm going to speak for myself. I've eaten some shit sandwiches in my life. And one really bad one about 5 years ago. And I am a little bit jaded when it comes to new friendships. Like, I love meeting new people, but for you, there was not a doubt in my mind that we would be fast friends. Like, I felt comfortable. Like, I feel like I've known you for a long time.
I do too.
Do you have a bit of a resistance to new friendships because of your past events?
Yes, absolutely. And I totally agree with you completely. There was something about you that I was really drawn to. Um, you, I aspire to be like you,
So sweet.
but I'm serious. Like, I remember when we were coming to meet you here for the first time, and he didn't really know you very well or anything. And I was like, I am so excited just to learn from her, like her experience and just watching you and how you always have your hands in so many different things. And you put yourself out there so that you're at risk, and with risk comes reward.
Yeah.
And that shows tremendously.
Thank you.
Just who you are, you're just so bright and happy. And even when you're not feeling well, you put on that smile, and it speaks volumes. And I just have seen the way that you are towards everybody that you come into contact with. And I love how real and genuine you are.
Well, thank you.
I really do. But I was excited to meet you and to get to know you. And I kept hearing your name in like circles. And, my friend, he kept saying, you got to meet Mel, you got to meet Mel. And so once we didn't do Man on a Mission the second time and you did, I was kind of bummed but I'm glad that I got the opportunity
I
to
know.
actually meet you.
And Josh knows how I am too. And when we spent the day with you and Trav, I was like, do you love them? He's like, I do. And Iggy too.
Thank you.
We love our people. But what we're really seeking is good people.
Yeah, quality.
Genuine people.
Yeah.
People that'll be there, people that clap for us when we're winning.
Yeah.
And also people that you feel comfortable enough to say, girl, I'm having a bad day. Like, you always can come over and we can have a cup of coffee or whatever. And not everybody has that. My twin sister and my best friend both moved away from here about 13 years ago, and they really don't have that. And you have your kind of casual friends that you do things with as couples, but to be vulnerable enough to message and say, God, I'm like not having a good day. I just need someone to talk to be vulnerable. Like, most people don't have that.
Yeah. I
And
agree.
to meet somebody right away and feel, that safe space to trust. People are so, untrustworthy, and
it's hard.
and to be able to share, something deep, dark secrets with a new friend, it's like, it's freeing. But that's where that word surrender comes in. Just because I've eaten shit sandwiches doesn't mean I can't surrender to a new friendship with Britni and Travin, because I'd be selling myself short by not, we have so much in common, so I feel like we get each other. But the one thing you said earlier is that you were always running, and this will get you. So I also had a rebirth, reincarnation. There's a million words that I could put on this in September as well, and have had a huge transformation in the last 5 months. And it came when I was probably the busiest I've ever been. And you too.
Yeah.
I mean, your business and selling homes, and it's never the right time, but you have to stop and surrender and let it in, because what would have happened to you? Where would you be? What do you fear if this didn't happen to you? Where were you headed?
I feel like I was going to have a breakdown. Yeah, emotionally. And then at the time, it felt like financially too, which was just me freaking out and overthinking. And of course, I figured it out and everything was fine. And maybe not the way I wanted it to go or anticipated or thought that I needed, but it worked out. But I was definitely headed towards just a spiral again. And when I say again, is because I feel like over the last 20 years, not only was I raising children, but I was growing up myself.
Absolutely.
And it felt like many times that I was spiraling down. And it's so easy, like you said, like, is it hard to let people in? 100%. I've been hurt by so many people that I thought could truly see me and knew who I was. And maybe I made bad choices or mistakes. And it felt like the world was against me. And it felt like these people that I loved and that I would have supported, nobody had my back to even come say, like, how are you? Can I, like, this does not seem like you. Like, what's
The
going on?
simplest
Like,
word.
yeah.
How are you doing?
Yes. Can I help you? Like, are your kids okay? Like, and I think that's one thing through all of these lessons for me is I've been able to see, I want to say, like, how I don't want to be, and also like how to have compassion for other people that go through tough things.
Yeah.
And you hear the saying hurt people, but it is so much deeper than that. We all have so much pain and so much trauma. And if we could just stop and like look at it from the other person's point of view and just even show them a little bit of love, it'd go far
I agree.
for all of us.
I really agree. I feel like I've done so much better to help other people and myself, just not passing judgment, not expecting everybody to be like me, meeting people where they're at. And I'm telling you, 5 months ago, I couldn't have admitted my shortcomings, but just being a better listener. I'm a problem solver, that's for sure. And usually I can help people in a lot of areas of life, but really listening to where they're coming from, judgment free.
Right.
And
That's hard.
it really is. And realizing that not everybody's going to be like us, because not everybody was raised like us. So for me in particular, maybe people think I have a chip on my shoulder, and, people are going to, really dive into my past because I'm writing a book and I'm starting to talk about it. And yes, I've leveraged that, but it came at a huge price. So I know that not everybody has that past trauma to leverage, that, just getting up every day and tackling the day, it's hard for people. If they don't have some chip to push them, do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like they're just getting up. So the one thing that I can say now, and I honestly, I feel like I was also on a fast path to, I don't even know. It scares me to even think about it. Like a fast path to just nowhere. I thought I was on this great journey climbing this big mountain. And then when you take a look at yourself, and I felt like if I definitely was running from my past, and if I stayed a couple of notches ahead, that my past wouldn't catch me.
Yes.
And my biggest fear was stay ahead, work harder, do more, make more money. And everybody puts their trauma somewhere. Well, I thankfully have put it into
Work.
making money and work and being successful and bringing other people with me. But this year, last year and this year, I can say in the last 5 months, the quote that I will say is, when your true self catches you, you can finally stop running.
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
And that gets me choked up, because that's where I feel like I'm at right now. Like, finally, it caught me and I'm still alive. You know what I mean? Like, I think that was
And you're
always,
shining.
yeah. And it's even better. Who'd have
Yeah.
thought that being vulnerable, stepping into the light, as our coach and friend Eric Rock, like, who would have thought that exposing yourself to the world naked and afraid was the ticket to freedom, that you could
100%.
actually breathe again, that you could actually stop blaming yourself for the way that you are, or trying to pick yourself apart and say, what's wrong with me? How come I'm not like everybody else?
Yep.
How come I can't sleep at night? How come I can't just be okay with being average? Like, what's wrong with me? So I can honestly say I've been trying to help Iggy, who's pretty much, you painted the exact picture with the not sleeping and the gaps. And he was asking me yesterday, how do you sleep so sound? And I said, well, my word is gratitude. We are at a point in our lives where we should be so grateful. We're, sitting and living in our dream home, debt free, which most people will never be. People will die with debt. And I feel like when you're so busy chasing more, you don't enjoy what you have.
Absolutely.
So that's where this last 5 months for me has been. I guess I never really realized what my word was, but I feel like my word is gratitude. If I'm not grateful if I'm anxious for what's happening after you leave, be where your feet are is what I tell my husband. He actually said it this morning. I need to have gratitude for the time that we have here and enjoy the time that we have here. And the one thing that I also have really learned from the coaching group that I'm in, Man on a Mission, is most people don't want to talk about death. If you actually think about death and work backwards, you're going to make decisions easily. And I just say, what would my centurion self, which, if you don't know what that means, people that live to 100, which hopefully we will, what would my 100-year-old self say?
Yeah.
Should you do this tomorrow? Should you take this risk? So, yeah, I think I've really been with this home. I told Iggy, I said, are you truly enjoying this home? Do you have gratitude? And I think that the answer is, when you're so anxious about the future, you can enjoy the present.
Yeah.
So do you feel like because you're surrendering, you're more present and you're enjoying each day as it comes? And I know you're not a slacker, and I know you've got your foot on the gas, but how is that different for you in this kind of same scenario?
No, you're completely right. So that is exactly like when I came home and had that talk with, like, hey, this is the prayers, this is what's going on with me. From that day forward, when I started waking up in the middle of the night, that's my prayers were thanking God. Thank you for the opportunities that I have. Thank you for these struggles for me to actually wake up and see what I do have, instead of having the fear of what may happen or what I may lose. And that's where everything changed. I remember just immediately feeling so thankful for my children, thankful for, my partner. Thank you for this opportunity to have this business, because some people will never even jump on an opportunity. Thank you for the opportunity to build these homes. And even though I can't sell them right now because our market is just completely changed, it's still like having that sense of just gratefulness for everything around, instead of living in fear and being anxious, was part of surrendering 100%. So, and still, I have to constantly remind myself, because it's easy to get caught up in this whole matrix of life and tunnel vision, and living in the small town that we live in has its struggles sometimes too, especially when we're from here and you feel like sometimes you're just swimming to keep your head above. But yeah, I agree completely. Just being present, especially with our children. Like, it just goes way too fast.
Yeah, I agree for sure.
Yeah.
We've been empty nesters for 10-ish years, 4 grandkids. Oh my gosh, I was going to say something, Brittany. It's at the tip of my tongue. Gosh,
Well,
it'll come back.
we were even talking about marriage. And I felt like for the longest time, I couldn't give advice because I failed so many times. And now I'm like, no, what do you mean? You know what not to do. You need to like have these conversations with people, whether it's other women that are struggling with things that I struggled with that I wish I would have done differently. And we talked about just surrendering and not trying to change somebody. And also, I told you about this podcast that I listened to recently about this guy who almost lost his family. He had everything. He had all the money. He had his dream home. Everything on paper looked perfect, but there was no relationship, no connection. And that's where I think that a lot of us get stuck is that we feel like we have to have this honeymoon butterfly feeling all the time and that people need to fit in a box to be our person instead of just like, again, the word surrender and being like, yes, we're both different. And that's what makes this relationship beautiful. Like where I'm strong, you're weak. Where you're weak, I'm strong. And we pick up these pieces and we do it together. And that's the beauty in it. And I never saw that before. I was always looking at like what I needed from the person. And I was like, oh, well, I've got all this together. I've got, I'm a great housewife. I'm a good like mom. I'm a good wife. And everything looks perfect. But like getting down to the root like of a relationship between two humans that are totally different people that come from totally different worlds that need completely different things. So that's where I think just surrendering instead of trying to control and trying to change and
Yeah.
it's big.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think you're doing the world a disservice by not having this conversation. And I know this podcast is going to be so impactful on so many people. All of the things that you are saying, people are going to be able to relate to. And I think there's so many people that are scared to admit it. I mean, the vulnerability. I've was asked Josh something the other day. Iggy has his quirks. I have my quirks. I like my bed made every day. He doesn't like us to park in his parking spot, whatever. And I told Josh, I go, Josh, can you not park on the right hand side or something like that? And I was like, at this point,
Did I park in a spot?
it doesn't matter. It's maybe, but it's okay. It's fine. You can park somewhere else. But everybody has their quirks, like, right? You like to keep your house a certain way. You don't like people to leave their shoes out.
Yes.
And at this point, and hopefully this will help you when you get married, Josh, after 25 years, is it even worth it to ask, like,
It's funny that you
why
say
are
that.
you bothered by that? This is no big deal. Da 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 da. Like, right?
yes.
Don't pick on me for my crap, and I'm not
100%.
gonna. And I'm just gonna surrender.
Yes. But that's exactly what happened when I came home that day and I felt grateful and I started praying. I even went to him and I'm like, okay, I am just thankful that your shoes are actually everywhere because that means you're here.
Yeah.
And I need to be thankful for that part instead of focused on these little things that are driving me nuts. So it's hilarious that you said that because it's very true. And that was one thing I noticed is like, after my last couple relationships, marriages, they're very type A. Everything has to be their way. And if it's out of place, then it's a big deal. Like I've seen crazy men like throw tantrums and stuff. And so there was something inside of me, this anxiety that was built up that everything has to be perfect. And if it's not, then everything's out of control.
Same.
And so I've had to like release that and let go
Same.
and surrender and be like, it's okay.
Yeah.
Life is going to go on.
Yeah.
It's okay if there's a spoon in the sink.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Oh, girl, you and I have so much in common. Like, we just built this custom home, and obviously, Oscar scratches at the door.
Yeah.
So there's scratches. And I look at those scratches and I think, he's 9 years old. When he's passed away,
Yeah.
I'm going to be glad those scratches are there. Like, right. And my biggest thing is, I am such a scheduled person. If you want to freak me out and annoy me, like, I'm just so scheduled and I'm not spontaneous. I'm just going to tell you right now. I'm working on it. So last week, our housekeeper canceled. Bless your heart, Gretchen. We're so glad we have you. She fell, and I was cleaning the house, and Iggy came home, and I heard the sexiest thing I've ever heard in my life, which was a vacuum. And I was like, oh, hi. So together, without me nagging, which men hate being nagged, we cleaned our house, which we should be grateful
Yeah.
that we have this home together. And he did have an ulterior motive, and it's not sex. He goes, "Do you want to go to sushi tonight?" Well, it's a Wednesday.
It wasn't in the schedule.
Misscheduled here. I was just like,
It's funny.
oh my gosh, this man worked his butt off all day pouring concrete on his hands and knees.
Aw.
He came home, helped you clean the house so that you could have your women's group. You know what? Yes.
Aw.
And I used to take so long to get ready, and I'm like, yes, and that is one thing that I know he thinks it's sexy, spontaneity.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You know, to be able to say, want to go on the boat ride? Can you be ready in X amount of minutes? So I'm really trying to be spontaneous because I don't like that about myself.
I love that.
And I feel like I've missed out on a lot of life. And it makes me sad because some of my friends will say, I just don't ask you anymore because you're too busy. Well, there's probably some truth to that,
Sure.
but that's my fault, you know? So I do say now, please don't stop inviting me because that's a big fear of mine. What if, because I'm so anal and scheduled and rigid, that the day comes that there's no text messages asking me to go anywhere?
Yeah.
What would life be like? But the one thing that I was going to say before I forget is, I don't know if you're at this point yet, but I hope you're close, and I know you will be. But I couldn't have said this 5 months ago, but I can say this now. I no longer seek validation from anyone or anything.
And I thought the same thing this morning.
Do you feel that way?
100%.
When you feel that way, and that's why I really am so excited to just pour into my people in my Melfit 365, I want to give them that confidence because we are the most intimidating people in the room. We're the most inspirational people in the room. We're the most admirable people in the room. Because if you took a room of 50 women, how many people could say that? If you're listening to this today or you're watching this, can you say that you no longer seek validation from anyone or anything? And I don't think I'm cured. Maybe Britney's not cured, but we're doing the deep work, the work of vulnerability and stepping into the light. And it's a damn good feeling because I don't know what your take is on this, but I was seeking validation
Yeah.
from people that are never going to give it to me. You know?
It's in the wrong place too.
It's
All in the wrong
like,
places.
why? Do we really need that? Or are we confident enough women that we can give our own self a pat on the back and that we can be proud of ourselves? And that's what was missing for me.
Absolutely.
Did I ever give myself a chance to say, Josh asked me a rapid fire question. Don't lose your thought. I know you got something rapid fire questions. And he said, who is your biggest inspiration? And I said, not being cocky, but being confident, and don't mistake the two. I've earned this. I would like to thank me. And I'm inspired by me.
I love that.
And it's taken me a long time because I never gave up.
Yeah.
I never gave up on me. So what is your experience with that phrase? How did you come to be a woman that could actually say that?
I love exactly the way you said it, and I can relate to that. I think that I am still definitely growing, and I have a lot of room to grow. And I've been through a lot of things that have I've held myself back. So when I think of my biggest cheerleader,
I love it. You're hitting my questions.
yeah, it's exactly what you're talking about. It's so hard to put that on one person. And that's what I've really been thinking about. I am constantly telling myself positive words of affirmation and loving myself through things and forgiving myself. But my children, I don't want to cry. Whew. They've been through so much with me. And I think that when you think of unconditional love, there's nothing more beautiful than going through life with your children. Like, I mean, we grew up together. I have gone through so many struggles, and my kids have seen me go through those things. And I can't tell you like the beautiful messages I get from my girls, especially that are like, I'm so proud of you, mom. I'm so proud that you have not let everybody else and their words and the way that they've tried to pull you down, like destroy you. And you're fighting, you're a survivor, and you're always going to make the best out of everything. And if I get anything good out of some of the struggles that I've been through, if it's my girls seeing that it doesn't matter how low you've been, you use that and you can be just as high as you've been low.
And don't you think that it's made them more resilient?
100%.
Like if you had this storybook marriage and
Sure.
they never struggled, I think that I have a friend who's never struggled, and she's tried to explain to me how hard it is for her
Interesting.
to actually fight because she's never struggled.
Okay.
So when you've never struggled and you face adversity and you face
Yeah.
hard times,
Yeah.
what do? You've never had to. You've never seen your parents have a struggle. Do you know what I mean?
Do you know what's funny is I actually feel that way about myself. I know my parents had a lot of stuff. I know a lot. But as a child, they held everything again, like they kept it all a secret. Everything was behind closed doors, or so they thought, you know. And I remember thinking that. I remember going through things and thinking like, well, what about the fairy tale? What about like meeting my Prince Charming and living happily ever after? Like it's not that easy. How come they don't teach you how to get through these type of things? And absolutely, of course, I wish my children would have had a different upbringing. I wish I gave them that structure and stability of a mom and a dad and love that was unconditional and the support of one home. But I do think that they wouldn't be who they are today without some of the stuff that we've all gone through. And they all are amazing, amazing humans. And I'm excited to see like what their future holds. And
I think that we can't change the past. So
yeah,
to accept that there's a reason that that happened to you, there's a reason that that happened to them, and they're going to use all that throughout their life. You know, they're always going to be looking back and you know, with admiration for you that, you know, they're still here. They're alive.
yeah,
You kept
we're
them
all
alive
kicking.
and they're good kids, you know. So I haven't met Kingston, but good kids, and I could just tell we had an event here and I thought it was so cute how, you know, they supported you, and they're always going to be
Thank you.
clapping when you're winning, and you're always going to clap when they're winning. And I don't know, I don't think I would, if you could have changed the past, you would have changed them
Yeah.
because they wouldn't be as resilient if they never knew struggle. I think that's what flips people over when they've never had struggle. Without conflict, there's no growth. I said to Iggy, I don't know, like 6 months ago, I'm like, God, we never fight, which is a bad thing. Without, because we're not growing, because we're not
Yeah.
having any arguments. So I just really feel like it's it's really beautiful to look back on your struggles and know that your struggle is someone else's roadmap. I mean, somebody's going to hear this and just be like, "Oh my gosh, that's me. I've
Yeah.
been married 3 times." And I think that the beautiful thing is, look how you turned out. You know, you're surrendering and you're successful and you're learning a different kind of successful, your own success, you know, instead of, you know, being married to someone that had money, you're finding your own way, and I'm assuming it feels better.
It's freeing for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Even with all the pressure and stuff.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. And
definitely.
when I met you, you had told me that you had built 15 homes since you.
So the day of my divorce, I bought 7 townhouses. And then over that time period, I did that with my brother-in-law. We remodeled them and flipped them. And then I bought a piece of land, built a house, flipped that, bought 2 more lots, built one, which I still, that one's for sale. And then I flipped a lot. So I've done, I think like since my marriage, I've done like 24 projects or something by the time of like buying, flipping, building, remodeled a house downtown that was 100 years old. That was a project in itself, but I learned a lot.
What made you go from stay-at-home mom? Am I getting that right by saying that?
So
Or
that was a struggle in itself
okay,
because I've worked, like I started babysitting at 10 years old.
okay,
I had 2 jobs in high school. I worked as a single mom. And when I got married to my last husband, he was already doing really well. And he wanted me to stay home. We decided to have a child together, and he wanted to give me that. But with that came a lot of control and a lot of wanting me to feel like stuck, feeling like he had the control and the upper hand. And so I had kind of gone against him and went back into the salon and started doing hair.
oh, gotcha.
But in the meantime, he and his brother had owned 5 acres for quite a while, and we started developing that land, and we were building houses with shops. And so I got involved with that. And
Which
so,
is great because then you had that tool.
exactly.
And let's not dismiss stay-at-home moms, you guys.
Not at all.
Oh my gosh, moms do way more. Moms are
Absolutely.
the glue. So,
It was hard for me. I couldn't wait to get back into the work field because I was going crazy.
which most moms need that. You need a sense of self. Like, it's okay to take care of yourself. It's nice to have those years, but you got to have your own identity. So, did you feel like as soon as you got divorced, you wanted to go do these things? Was there a sense of, I want to prove to people?
100%. 100%. I was like, I'm going to hit the road running. Like, there's nothing that's going to stop me. And gosh, there's been a lot of roadblocks along the way for sure. But I've learned so much. And I think that that's the thing, like we talked about journey. Like, it's all in the journey.
Yeah.
And every time you hit that goal, there's a new goal.
Yeah. Without failure, there is no success. I mean, if you don't know how to get up when you got kicked, you got nothing. It's actually a strength, not a weakness, right?
Absolutely.
So you don't have to say who it is, but obviously you were trying to prove some people, wrong, and you wanted to be seen. And I am an example of the same, always proving and doing. Did you ever get that from the people that you wanted to see you and recognize you and tell you that you were worthy and that you were, that you could be a successful businesswoman and a builder? We might have to get Britni a tissue.
It's been a long journey. It's been 4 years since we got divorced, and between the 2 exes that I raised my children with, one of them I am so thankful for. Like, we really do co-parent so well, and we both, I still believe, love and respect each other. And he is very gracious to me, and he's very, what is the word? Not positive, but he's just very uplifting and encouraging. And yeah, I mean, he definitely tells me how gifted I am and how like proud and stuff like that. And that means a lot because he's been very special to me. And
That's great.
my other
That
ex
feels good.
is completely opposite. I think that God challenges me every day just to like take a deep breath and like I have to remind myself that it is his stuff. It's not mine. But the other people, the people in town that I feel like I've been misjudged, misunderstood, or drugged through the mud, slowly but surely, I get a lot of apologies. I do.
That's awesome.
I get people that just in their own way sometimes to let me know that they see me and they see the situation. And I did have a situation that was very public and everybody wants to have an opinion about. And I decided early on not to tell my story about that at the time. Like, I could have exposed a lot of people and I could have made them look very yucky. But I decided to hold my head up high. And that's where, for a couple of years, I definitely, like we talk about, was stuffing stuff. And Eric really pushed me into like telling my story more and like owning my truth and being vulnerable and loving myself through it. And he's been an amazing friend and mentor. I'm very, very thankful because at the time that he asked me to do Man on a Mission last summer, I was still hiding. I was hiding from people. I was hiding from myself. I was still, you know, alcohol's a whole nother subject, but that was always something that I used to cope with, that in any situation I ever got in that was something that didn't feel good to my soul, always there was always a lot of alcohol involved, and it was a coping mechanism just to numb myself from all the pain that I hadn't healed through. So,
I know one of my clients that I'm working with the other day said that, they were getting back into the big Magnum bottle, which is of wine, which is like 2 bottles of wine. And, day after day after day, finally realizing that your problems are still there.
yeah.
And it really actually is a depressant, and it is a toxin. And I'm not judging anybody. I'm not 100% alcohol free at this point, but because of my health and fitness journey, I have always limited it to a couple a week, sometimes none. And there's so many things in my life that have had control over me, and I am very grateful that I can say that I don't,
Yeah.
it doesn't, but I empathize for, because there has been years where same thing, I sometimes, I'm seriously don't even know how I'm alive. I mean, I've drove drunk and, and I think that's why I turned to health and fitness. Because when I had my brick and mortar, if I went to the gym or if I went to my brick and mortar, I couldn't hurt anyone. And I knew that I was going to hurt someone from driving, and I was going to hurt myself.
Yeah.
So I feel like for me, I've kind of crossed over that, area. But I just really try to help people who haven't, get them into, replacing it with something that is going to fill them up. I mean, alcohol is just it's a real empty feeling,
Very.
once it wears off. So with the situation that you went through, I think you even said one of the girls was in your group.
Hmm.
And did you take the high road on that one? Is that how you handled yourself?
Yeah, I remember Eric kept calling me over and over, and I was like, you know what? I'll never tell anybody ever that somebody isn't allowed somewhere because of me. I'm just going to take the back seat and I'm just not going to participate. Like maybe in the future or something, but I can't put myself in this situation to here I am trying to like grow and step out, and here is somebody that I keep being faced with, that I keep hearing is talking so horribly about me, who I am, my character, telling people to hate me, telling people, things about me that really aren't true to who I am. Um, and it was like 4 a.m. the morning of, and I messaging with him and stuff, and he's like, "No, you've got this. You got this. You got to like, slay the dragon and um, hit it head on." And I was shaking so bad, I'd wrote like 4 speeches, like on what I was gonna say, word for word. And I just got up there, and I'm shaking, and you can hear it in my voice, and I'm talking, and I looked at her quite a few times, and that to me, like, it has nothing to do with her, nothing. Like it had everything to do with me. And I was basically standing up like I'm naked in front of everybody. Like here I am,
Yeah.
throw stones at me, like
Yeah.
whatever.
Naked and afraid.
Yep. And that in itself, like I remember feeling like I walked away and I had 1,000 pounds off of me just right then and there. She ended up quitting right away, which was a blessing and a curse in the moment because I feel like I was able to face that I needed to for myself. And I don't know why I was giving this person so much power, but that wall came down and I was able to step forward. And that was a huge like beginning point for me. And then later in the future, I mean, things are a lot better now. And I definitely get very nice messages from that person now. And it comes full circle, and of course, I wish things would have happened differently, but it also gives me, again, compassion and perspective from other people. And I don't blame these people either because a lot of us are driven off of emotion and
Reactive.
very. And I think that some people are embarrassed too for the way that they handled themselves and think that they could have done things differently. And it's not really my place to hold that. Like, do I have boundaries up? And like you said earlier, do I have a hard time? Absolutely. Like, I'm very cautious. I don't really trust as easy anymore. But I do feel like I can tell right away. I can tell their heart. I can tell if they're genuine. I can tell if they have my best interest in mind too. And I feel like I had to weed out so many people, and it was a good thing. But at the time, I felt so alone, and I was scared, and I was searching for those relationships that I was so used to. And now I have all these people around me, including you, that are just healthy and uplifting and positive, and you know, those that is what I strive for, not the other stuff that was just
Yeah.
filling all of that day-to-day chaos. And
Yeah.
go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that the trash takes itself out.
Yes.
And you know what? I can relate to that so much because some of the things that the most I've been hurt by, friendships and losses, they weren't serving me.
Yeah.
They were serving the other person. And I most recently had an issue where a situation where I decided to do what I always do, which is take the high road and be a duck. Thank you, Scotty, my friend Scotty, that drowned in Lake Coeur d'Alene, Scott Shaver. We love you. I just live my life by him. I just have always admired the way people love him. 1,000 people were at his funeral, and he was a man that was an angel on earth. He had time for everyone and everything. And it didn't matter if you had no teeth or were a multimillionaire. He treated you the same. And I think the most valuable thing he taught me when I opened up my business when I was 27, his words of wisdom and mentorship were be a duck and take the high road. And I've always wanted to be a businesswoman, and I've always wanted to be respected as a businesswoman. And I still, in 2024, have to fight for that respect. Building this home and having people knock on the door and ask for my husband and have to say, oh, you needed the siding? Well, yeah, well, that's going to be the wood grain siding, and that's going to be black, and then that's going to be white concrete backer board that we're going to paint dove gray. Like, I designed this house. I know what's going on, and I've spearheaded every project that my husband and I have ever worked on. And I don't mean to sound like rash about it, but we as women should have the same respect in any field of business. So with that being said, I will not be embarrassed and I will not be involved in drama. Good. And I actually had a situation recently where I decided to, take the high road, and, to each his own if people want to have words or whatever, but it's just not me. And I know that when people get around gossip feeds gossip, and there's only one energy, and it's negativity. And it's no matter what way you look at it, those people will always hit rock bottom. It might be their lowest low to get to their highest high, and I pray that they all will, but it's something that has always worked for me, and it always will. So I respect you for taking the high road. And I've been in those situations too, where I have, ran into a ghost from the past, and I've felt like, oh my gosh, what am I going to say? And then I think to myself, why should I be nervous? And the one thing that I've been saying over and over and over lately, and you should write this down, if you meet someone that doesn't like me, ask them what they did to me. Because I have been trying so hard my whole life to treat people well, meet people where they're at, help people, be a good steward of my community. And I live in that truth. I really, really feel that way, that if there is somebody that says something about me, first of all, they don't know me, and ask them what they did to me. Now, the being a duck, now don't mistake that for being a pushover. I will stand up for myself. I will only take so much. But for the most part, it's not worth it. You
I
know,
agree.
it's not worth it. And the people that are involved in this, that's what they want, that from you. And how you're really affecting them is your silence.
Absolutely.
Because all they've ever known is conflict and drama and back and forth, and being able to take that back and gossip with, all the other negative people in the group.
Yep.
And when you take that away, you take your power back. And it's so hard, believe me. I
just went through it.
So tempted to just be like,
Yep.
but I think it's a very admirable character trait, and it's classy and it's businesslike. And I'd highly recommend, if you're not there yet, the next altercation you have, be a duck, take the high road. And as much as you'd like to think you can't cut people off, it's super easy. You can block them. You do not need to respond. You don't owe them anything.
It amazes me. Like, I just got a phone call the other day from our friend, and he was like, "Do you know this person?" And I was like, "Well, I don't really technically know them. I know who it is." And he was like, "Well, I just got a message on my Facebook page that was awful about you." And I was like, "Really?" I'm like, and he's like, "Yeah, I don't even want to read it to you because I don't want to give it any energy." He's like, he asked me a few things. I kind of explained that this person has a lot of dysfunction in their life. And in the moment, I had all these feelings going on of like, how am I going to handle this? Like, I wanted to message her. I wanted to be like, why are you going out of your way to message one of my best friends who clearly I just came home on a vacation with, and you're talking all this nonsense about me? Like, where do you get off? But he handled it so well. And he told me, he's like, we don't have room for this person in our life. I'm deleting this message. I'm not even going to, give it any space and stuff. And so I woke up the next day and thanked him. I'm like, thank you. Thank you for telling me.
People.
Yeah. Thank you for telling me, because I need to hear these things. And
you need to be aware.
Yes. And I also needed to hear that my friend wasn't listening to this, and he knows everything about me. There's no secrets. And he came to me and asked me, and then he handled it to where he didn't give it any power. And so at the end of the day, I did still struggle a little bit with wanting to reach out and feel like I'm taking something back, but I didn't. I let it be. And it's
all we can do is pray for those people.
Exactly.
And feel sorry for them, because they are not surrendering. They do not have gratitude. Rather than filling their days with beautiful things, there's so many beautiful things you can find each day. They're filling their days with trying to break down a beautiful soul.
But I did find myself praying for her.
Yeah,
and
for sure. Yeah. Somebody, yeah.
All I can do.
Yeah. Somebody just asked me about, a certain person that a lot of times people can't, when you're growing, they're suffocating. Your growth makes people feel like very uncomfortable, and you're growing. I'm growing. We're building empires. We're doers. We're movers. We're shakers. We're never going to stop. Most people will never catch us. Again, confident, not cocky. And those people will not be clapping for you. Don't wait around. You're going to die. Don't hold your breath. They'll never clap for you, because they can't get past their own insecurities and paralysis of pulling their heads out of their own asses and doing something about it. Nobody's coming for you. Take your eyes off of my paper.
Yeah.
Let Britni and I inspire you to do something for yourself. Stop spending your extra time trying to break other people down. Absolutely. And, another piece of advice my friend Scotty gave me is, if you make it about the people, the money will flow freely. If you make it about the money, they'll smell a rat. So if you are in business, try surrendering and just pouring into people. See what happens. When When I met her at Man on a Mission, I said, this is the year of I want to give everything away for free. I want to collab. I want to have free events. I want to meet people. And when you walk through life like that, your cup is full, your tree is fruitful, and it feels good. It feels so much better than I know we've all been at these points in our lives with finances where we're so anxious about money and the future and trying to get the business. Like, have you kind of felt that shift with finances that now that you're surrendering,
Yeah.
is your tree fruitful?
Yeah, I finally just got to the point where we have our 1 year anniversary coming up, which is super exciting. The first year was very stressful, especially just piling in all that money all the time and not feeling like you're reaping the rewards. But definitely we were planting seeds and it's now paying for itself at least, and I'm slowly getting able to pay myself back. So it's it's coming full circle. Just it's
Yeah.
hard. People don't realize. I mean,
Oh,
and they see it and they I do feel like we've had a great media team too behind us. And so we've been out there a lot and people know the name now and they're familiar with it. And so automatically they think, "Oh my gosh, I see this everywhere." So they're successful. They're doing great. And it's like it's hard. It's hard starting up a new business and people don't realize how much
yeah.
time you put into it and money even before you start the business
Yeah.
and then keeping it rolling. So
Yeah.
yeah, you know my story with my health. So Rev is my baby and I look at it more as like my outlet of being able to help others go through things that I didn't have the support to go through at the time that I was really, really sick. And so definitely love pouring into our patients and I love just giving them that outlet of feeling like they have somebody that will listen to them,
Yeah.
that will go to bat for them, that isn't just gonna like, go months and months without like having any sort of communication or just throwing them off to the next provider. And um,
That's one thing I said. We had a really long meeting is I feel like our mess is our message. And the more you can tell people your why, which was one of my questions, that's next. And Travin's not here today. Hi, Travin. But Travin, I feel like was probably really influential on Josh and Iggy because he's 40 years old and he was saying he felt like crap a couple years ago.
yeah,
And I feel like once you discover the secret, hormones, health, fitness, exercise, the secret, you just want to tell everyone, right?
yes,
And then the same with Britni. You'll hear her talk, and I think we should do a full podcast
yeah, I
dedicated
agree.
to your explant because that's a big subject right now. And she talks about, why she got into creating Revv Health. And I think it's really important to know who are your coaches, who are you working with, and why are they doing this? And the one thing that you guys are going to feel right away, it's not about the money. That'll come. It's about helping people. So what is your why?
For Rev,
So let's do your why for Rev and then just your why for life.
yeah.
So what is your why?
Well, with Rev, gosh, I know we've talked about this so much. I felt like I was constantly going through like this crazy cycle of I knew my body was not right and I knew something was wrong, but I was going to doctors and they kept telling me it's in my head. They were telling me I have fibromyalgia. They were telling me that I need antidepressants, and I wasn't going to take that as a diagnosis. I'm like, I want to get to the root cause of this. And so I was spending countless hours, days, trips, like flying to Seattle, going to Sandpoint, going to California, just meeting with anybody and everybody. And nobody knew how to get to the root cause of helping me. My blood work was coming back that like I was deficient in all minerals, vitamins, my adrenals were shot, my hormones were shot. Um, but they didn't know why. And they're like, you're so healthy. You're working out all the time. You eat healthy. I was allergic to everything all of a sudden.
At what age did you start trying to get help?
I've had my breast implants out almost 6 years and it was 2 years before that. So 8 years, so 31. I was young. Working out twice a day, not having any results, super inflamed, back pain, joint pain, memory loss. Like that was scary. I still actually have some issues with that, which it's one of probably my last things that I deal with, which is scary. Um, but I was so desperate. And then I got diagnosed from our naturopathic doctor that helped us create Rev with Lyme disease. And it was something that Western medicine told me that I was crazy, that every naturopathic doctor is telling everybody they have Lyme now. And when they went back and tested me, thank God I had been diagnosed with that and that he had already been giving me like proper herbs to treat it, because the only thing that came back was that I had antibodies for Lyme. But not only did they not know what type of Lyme, they didn't even know how to treat it. And they just sent me on to like an infectious disease specialist who wanted to pump me full of like 8 months worth of antibiotics that was equivalent to chemo and was
Oh my
going to
gosh.
kill good and bad. And I didn't take that as an option. So I
either.
had to be my own advocate and I had to dig deeper. And when I started Googling Lyme, I came up with one of the housewives of Beverly Hills, actually. I didn't know anything about her, so I started reading her story, and she took out her breast implants after being diagnosed with Lyme and immediately started getting her life back. And so, of course, that's not what I wanted to believe. I didn't get these to ever take them out. Obviously, I had other issues that I was dealing with. And so at that point, I was so desperate. I didn't care. I had my ex husband was backing me, and he's like, who cares? Like, if it doesn't work and you want him back in, we'll put him back in. So I'm thankful that I had his support. He was great during the process. And I did. I flew to Florida and had a specialist who he's world renowned take my breast implants out, and a microsurgeon, and did an amazing job. His bedside manner was incredible. But I woke up from that surgery and felt like 1,000 pounds had been taken off me.
Wow.
You
Like
don't,
right away.
yeah, you don't realize that they're like this toxic object sitting on top of your lungs, your heart. Like it's something we get used to when we have them. And immediately my body started like purging, detoxing. My mom was with me and she's like, "Oh my gosh, you smell like chemicals." Like just pouring out. Just it was
Wow.
awful. Um and so it was a process, it was a journey. I had to detox and stuff, and at the end of it, fast forward a few years, um hormones were the last thing that I could not figure out and I couldn't get help with. And I was searching and searching. I finally found somebody in town that was doing testosterone pellets. So I was excited. Went down that avenue, and it was great in the beginning because I
Until you do a squat.
or that. But it was great in the beginning, and then I had, it was like it's something that's in your body, and it's a crash. Like you're high and then low, and then high and then low. And I couldn't find anybody to address all hormones. It was like very vague, and still felt like you show up and you're just like another, patient for the day. You have 15 minutes and you're in and out. And so Travin has his own story of getting Hashimoto's and having to be his own advocate and going through feeling like, gosh, I don't want to say rejected from so many doctors, but it's like it's frowned upon to even question them. And then you question them and they don't want to deal with you.
You're
It's like
good.
it's an
You're
insult.
never going to
Yeah.
make any more of your sex hormones, and you can tell them you feel like absolute dog crap, and your primary care will say you're good.
Yes, absolutely. And
That's
so
what's so
yeah, and
that's
so
what's wrong with
yeah,
society today.
absolutely. And we created this to actually be the middleman for everybody else. So, we don't have the same restrictions that doctors do and stuff. And we formulated this to help people get outside of the normal and not take the diagnosis of this being normal or just to deal with it, or antidepressants, or, all of the other pharmaceutical drugs that they're handing out like candy all the time. But it does, like with our own trials that we've gone through and having to like challenge doctors along the way, we're able to help coach our patients, and just having that flexibility of some like feeling like you can hold their hand and they're not alone. And we're not just giving them a bunch of prescriptions and sending them on their way and then just checking in with them every couple months. That was really important to both of us. So
I'm saving my comments. You guys are going to hear my horrible experience with primary care, Western medicine doctors. We're going to save that story for the podcast specifically. on what we need to do one for your story and Travin's. So, but it's you're most capable of helping the person that you used to be.
100%.
And I think it's really important if you're going to teach people something that they know you lived it
Yeah.
and you healed from it. You know, you're healthier now and it's not just one thing. We said this before, it's everything. So between the both of us, we're really teaching you how to have optimal health, you know, between the hormones and strength training and nutrition and this podcast, spirituality, faith, mindset, surrendering. I mean, I think it really it's everything goes hand in hand. So, what advice can you give our audience to start tapping into this area of surrendering?
Of surrendering. The advice on it would be just to do it. Like, you just have to make that conscious decision to just start. Like, today's the day.
And yours started with prayer.
Mine started with prayer, yeah. And that looks different for everybody. And
Yeah.
I totally understand. I recently, when we were on our trip to Africa, I met this incredible guy. We're both turning 40 in October, and his story is incredible. He's been sober for 20 years, 22, I think. But he talks about using his pain and the stuff that he's been through. And he's really dove into meditation, and he talks about how he actually just started, I believe, probably around the same time as us, really. He felt like he needed something more. So he follows Joe Dispenza, and he goes through his programs and stuff. And he's telling me that that's the same thing. He meditates every day and surrenders. And then he's just grateful. And everything is about giving back to other people. And the more you give, the more like that comes back to you and stuff.
Absolutely.
So I definitely think there's a huge movement going on this, and it's really nice. And maybe it's just like once you do surrender, maybe God like brings those people to you that you need.
I think
That,
so.
yeah,
All the people that have showed up in my life in the last 5 months, I didn't even know.
yeah,
I didn't even know. They would be the last people that I would say, you know, you're my rock. You saved my life and changed my life. Like I didn't even know most of them. Some of them I did. So
isn't that
yeah,
crazy?
it is crazy. And I think that actually it's a wake up call because I think that I I was seeking, you know, support in the wrong spot.
Absolutely.
It's hard for someone to support you when they're, you know, just your mere existence is crippling to them.
Yeah,
It suffocates them.
yeah,
Or coming from a loving place, how can they help you when they can't even help themselves? So that's where I've really shifted because I can be pretty, I'm not going to say mean, but I guess I've been pretty critical in the past, you know, about people. But I really think that you never really know what anybody's going through. And I think being in these different, you know, groups and hearing people open up and you hear someone's story, people paint the picture of, oh, she's perfect. He's perfect. And then you hear them open up their mouth. And I think that people are just so like, you know, wow, they're really normal.
we do live in a society though that is built upon a lot of victims,
Yeah,
and I think that that makes it hard too, because when you are always faced with somebody that's a victim, you don't truly get to see them for who they are.
that's true.
And I think that that makes it harder when you're getting close to people. When you see people that are being real and genuine and authentic and being like, I screwed up. Like, I got myself into this situation and it's a mess. And here I am, like, taking responsibility, and I'm going to do whatever it takes to make it better. That to me speaks volumes. And I feel like I see that with a lot of people that God keeps bringing into my life. And I'm so thankful for that, because not only can I show grace and compassion, but I'm receiving that too.
Yeah, I love
And that's
that.
really what we all are looking for.
Yeah, for sure.
We just want to be accepted. We
Yeah,
just want to be understood.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Agreed. It's beautiful to hear people say that. It's like a breath of fresh air. It makes us feel like we can be vulnerable. So I wrote, what does your future look like 5 years from now? And I like to expand on that. I like to ask my clients this, like, not only what does your future look like, but most importantly, what do you act like? What do you speak like? What do you feel like? What energy are you putting off to the world? What is your mission? Like, what do you see?
Yeah, that's a good question. My mission definitely is to help as many men and women when it comes to optimizing their hormones and just taking back the quality of life day to day. Because I know the importance of that with every area of your life. It really just it hits all areas. But to see myself, I mean, we really are moving to grow throughout the country. I would love to see in 5 years that Rev is in all 50 states, helping as many people as we can, and that we're growing with like minded practitioners. There's definitely a lot more awareness of what we're doing, which is great. Also, like getting past the stigma of HRT. There's a lot of people still that, there's a lot of misinformation out there in regards to it. And I would love just to be able to be a part of bringing more awareness to that. I'd love to be able to have that sense of freedom. Like I see myself just freedom in more areas than just where I'm at right now. This is just the beginning. Like when it comes to my relationship, to my children, finances, more stability and structure. I'm on the right path, but it again is just the beginning. Um, yeah, does that answer the question okay?
Yeah, I love it. Yeah. Well, we're going to keep helping you get the message out on Revv Health. HRT, if you guys don't know, is hormone replacement therapy. And keep listening because we're going to keep educating you on what it is,
The importance.
the importance of it,
Yep.
and you're going to hear my story. So if you're one of my listeners, at least, have faith in my story that, we don't have to be scared and feel like crap. We can feel better. And don't think it's only for postmenopausal women.
No.
Josh is 26, Britni was 31. So for men and women, everyone. I mean,
Absolutely.
you never know. I think that people are so out of tune with their bodies and they've just accepted feeling like crap. And unfortunately, nobody's getting to the root cause. So when you go to your primary care Western medicine doctor and you say, I'm depressed, I have brain fog, I don't have energy, I feel like crap, are they going to look at your hormones, Brittany?
No, absolutely.
What are they going to give me?
Antidepressants first.
And what is that doing? That's like alcohol, right?
Yeah.
You wake up and your problems are still there, right?
And it's going to create more issues, which they're just going to give you a different pill for as well.
Yeah.
Or they're going to up it or they're going to try a new one.
Yeah.
And we could go down the rabbit hole of big pharma and the corruption of that. And that's like a whole
That's
session.
another podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, it's unfortunate. And I do have one of my best guy friends. He finally just got his blood work done yesterday. But I've been trying to encourage him for like the last 8 months. Like he's been depressed and he keeps on going to the doctor. They won't test for things. Then they will test for just his testosterone, but they tell him he's normal. And then giving him like candy antidepressants. And he's finally like, okay, I'm sick and tired of it.
Oh, good.
Yeah, which is awesome.
Good.
Because sometimes people just need to hear it from more than one person.
Yeah.
And they also takes time just to like sit back and watch. And
yeah. And I think what we said before the camera was on, Josh and I said, it just feels so good to know that there's nothing wrong with us.
yes.
And
normal.
like anything, if it's not something you can, fix without, some help, then, if it's going to make you feel better, if it's going to give you the, a better quality of life, like why not? So you guys will be hearing testimony about myself, Josh, and Iggy. So people that you really, and hopefully love. So anything else you'd like to share with our listeners and our watchers. This is going to be on YouTube too, you know, right?
Yeah. No, but if
this podcast will live forever.
Yes, I love it.
It's a legacy.
No, but if you have any more curiosity on Revv, you can find us at revv.health. And we are also on Instagram too. So Revv Health. And yeah, we'd be happy to help answer any questions. And I'm looking forward to next time.
Yeah. If you're local, we're doing an open house. If you're local in Idaho, March, what did we say, Josh? 14th, 4:30 to 8:30. Josh is going to send out an email this week, and we actually are going to go live. So that'll be nice, and we'll post that so everybody can, and we'll get a lot of B-roll from it on all of the rapid fire questions that people are going to ask. So prepare yourself, Trav and YouTube, Britni. So this is lovely. I think it's really special that our first podcast wasn't really about business.
Yeah.
You know, of course, that would be like
more personal,
normal for us to say, let's jump on a podcast and talk about business. But I think the most beautiful thing ever is when you meet somebody and instead of saying, what do you do for a living? You say, what do you tell me about you?
Yeah.
What lights your fire? What are your interests? When is the last time somebody's done that? You know, and I think, you know, what you said earlier, just to check in with people, a simple text, or even if you meet a total stranger. Oh, this is going to make me cry. I saw this Instagram yesterday, and there was a guy filming a homeless girl. She looked like a teenager in the pouring rain, sitting against a concrete wall on the side of the road. And he was filming it to be a social experiment, assuming that no one was going to help this girl. This woman walked over to her, put an umbrella over both of them, and they started talking.
Wow.
And although you can't hear, you can see what happened. And the woman hands the girl her phone, and then pretty soon Uber Eats shows up. You'll love this one, Josh. And instead of just giving the girl the food,
she ate with her.
I know, doesn't that? Yeah. And the girl gave, I mean, it's crazy, you guys. The people that have nothing will give you half of their nothing.
100%.
And the girl gave her a stocking cap. And that is what's so beautiful is, what if you just surrendered, ask people, you know, how are you doing? And talk to people you don't know. Why, you know, people are so resistant, you know, as much as that woman filled that girl's cup up, she filled hers up too. Sorry, you guys, if you could have seen this one, I just was like walking and just bawling about it. And it's like, the world doesn't have to be so ugly. You don't have to be totally, numb to all the shit that's going on in the world, but you can certainly live in your own bubble, and you almost have to.
Absolutely.
I'm aware of what's going on, but I would like to live in my own bubble of peace, gratitude, and just focus on the fact that that's a cool story, right?
It's beautiful.
That's a good thing. And it's out there, but it also can come from you. What if the next time we saw a homeless person, we sat down with them?
Yes, yeah.
Didn't judge them, didn't ask them, how did, you know, hey, how are you doing? It's obvious the state that they're in. Do we all need to talk? You know what I mean? Yeah. And then maybe if they trust you enough to unravel their story. But I think that there's a lot of beauty in the world. There's a lot of beautiful people in the world. Really, so thank you for your time, and thank you for your friendship, and thank you for spending this time with me. And I think that it's going to help me. It's going to help a lot of people listening, because we are fighting a losing battle, right? So
thank you.
Thank you
so much.
So thank you guys. If I made you cry, I'm sorry, but I really do coach that all our lives we've been taught to shove it down. You shouldn't shove it down. You should just let it out, because if you sweep it under your rug, you're going to trip over it later. So I love you guys, and you know it, our listeners and our Melvin Army. And I just continue to have faith that God's going to keep bringing people like Britni and amazing people into our lives, because we're worth it, right? See?
Love you, Mel.
So love you too. So I'll get it together here, you guys, I promise.
It really comes down to surrendering your ego.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like-
there is a lot of ego out there.
Yeah. a
For
lot.
sure.
Yeah. You have such a beautiful soul.
Oh, back at you. Back at you. So, all right. How long have we gone, Josh?
Hour and 40 minutes.
You got to be kidding me. Oh my
Okay.
gosh. This is so amazing. But no podcast is as long as Joe Rogan's. Oh my gosh. Josh sent me one. I was like, my gosh, I can't even wrap my mind around this. This is like 3 walks. So
My favorite one is like 3 hours long, and I'm always like, you have to listen to it.
oh my gosh. So if you guys have stayed with us through this in one setting, we commend you. And hopefully something that you heard today inspired you. And like our friend and coach will say, do something with it. Learning and becoming more knowledgeable in any area of your life, you're doing the world a disservice by doing nothing with it. So thank you, Britni, for being vulnerable and stepping into the light and sharing your story. And I thought it went beautifully. You don't really need notes when it's just right here in your heart. So thanks for joining us. We'll see you guys, whether you're listening to this or watching this, we'll see you guys on the next Melfit podcast. Thanks for joining. Bye-bye.